Hey everybody, Josh Peck here. Welcome to another episode of the Sharpening Report. So today I got something a little extra special for you. In the first part, I'm going to play for you an interview that I did with L.A. Marzulli, just about like Nephilim hybridization stuff that's happening in modern science today, what that has to do with all sorts of things, aliens, UFOs, even dinosaurs, stuff like that. We cover a lot of different topics, but then after that, I want to share with you an excerpt from my new two-volume book set called The Final Cataclysm, and this one is from chapter 6 of book 1, and it's going to be about extra dimensions and fallen angel Nephilim hybrids. Now, a couple of quick things before we get into the interview with LA. First, all the show notes for these, so if you wanted the show notes for extra dimensional and fallen angel Nephilim hybrids, which means that you actually get the excerpt from the book, you can have that in a couple different ways. You can sign up for my Substack, joshpeck.substack.com, and if you do that, you'll get the audio only version of this entire video. And not just the part that goes up on YouTube, but the whole thing. You get the audio only version. Some people prefer audio only so they can listen to it in the car or if you're doing chores or whatever. But then you also get basically the excerpt that I'm going to go through later. You're going to get that whole thing as a blog post. So it's basically you click on a link and you get that opened up. Also for people who are signed up to the Substack, I have had a couple people confused why they're getting 2 emails every time I post. It's because one is the audio only podcast and one is the actual blog post. And it provides you with both those resources. That's why you're getting 2 emails that have the same title. But if you look at them, if you open them, it'll show one's the podcast, one's the blog post. Or if you want the full video, the actual video, the full video, the whole thing doesn't go up on YouTube because of censorship issues. And if you want to actually download the PDF, so you have the show notes for your own collection that you can keep on your computer, you can do that at dailyrenegade.com by becoming a member there. You get full videos of everything we do, even stuff that's not available on YouTube, again, because of censorship and things that we've had to deal with in the past. But you also get a PDF download of this Extra Dimensions and Fallen Angel Nephilim Hybrids thing that I'm going to go through after the interview with LA. All of the links to all of those they're all in the description below, plus a few other things that I think you'll find interesting. So, yeah, all that being said, so make sure you check those out. Oh, and also make sure you subscribe and click the bell if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble or whatever, especially on YouTube. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that would be a great goal to hit. I believe some things in like the algorithm open up after that threshold, so it might be even easier to get these messages out to people. We're almost there, so if you could, please subscribe, click the bell to turn on all notifications. That way you know every time. Not only do we do Sharpening Report episodes every week, but throughout most weeks, we also do little update videos. Sometimes they're only 10 or 20 minutes long, but it'll be on various topics having to do with a lot of different prophetic things or things happening in the world today relating to things like, Nephilim, fallen angels, UFOs, aliens, AI, quantum computers, multiverse stuff, a bunch of different areas, supernatural things. So if all of that is for you, please click the bell to turn on all notifications, subscribe, share this, like this, leave a comment in the comment section below, be an active participant. We as the church should be active, and non-believers do come on and read those comments. So, put your own testimony in there, engage in the conversation. Let's build a robust community online. And then you can do the exact same thing on the community page at dailyrenegade.com if you become a member. That's for us to just kind of fellowship with each other and not have to worry about trolls, not have to worry about being censored or told we can or cannot talk about certain topics. At dailyrenegade.com, we can talk about whatever we want. So there's a community page for that works very similar to Facebook. And then the watch page with all the full videos is very similar to YouTube. It's really easy to navigate, and it just doesn't have any of the censorship garbage. And then, yeah, there's the Substack too, which you can also comment on. So best thing to do is just put everything together. Subscribe to the channel, get memberships to both the Substack and the Daily Renegade. dailyrenegade.com. Become a full renegade with us, and we'd love that. We'd love to have you, and let's all fellowship together and do something truly special here online. So all that being said, let's get into my interview that I did on with LA on his channel, and there's going to be some mind-blowing stuff. So buckle up. All right, watch this.
We have Josh Peck back, and as I said before the commercial break, Josh hopefully will be a regular on our monthly cycle of shows. And today he weighs in on something which immediately caught my attention when the story broke, I think last week, the dire wolves. You know, and they typically they show this picture of this humongous wolf. Oh, it's been brought back to life. What next? So um, I found it, again, we're in the days of Noah, Jesus warns us, where this whole genetic manipulation was going on in the days of Noah. Read the book of Enoch because it talks about all that. A really good resource for this is Dr. Ken Johnson. He's sort of the go-to guy with all these ancient texts. I think you'll find it interesting. So, dire wolves, Josh Peck, thanks for coming on. What say you in that?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Well, this is really fascinating. What blew my mind most about this was last time that I was on, I think it was about a month ago, last time I was on,
Yeah.
we were talking about artificial intelligence mainly. And you had asked me, well, where could this lead in the near future? Like what kind of capabilities? And we were talking about quantum computing and specifically artificial intelligence. And I said, well, it's not understating it to say that in the near future, I didn't realize how near it would be, but in the near future, they'll be able to use AI to create new life, new hybrids, new things that have never existed on the earth before. Now, of course, and this happens to me all the time. It's been happening more and more. I was thinking 5, 10 years down the line. I wasn't thinking next month. Yeah. And even more, it's not like they just did it. They did this months ago because these wolves or whatever are a few months old. Well, so the whole story around it being a de-extinction of the dire wolf is kind of a misnomer, and honestly, it's probably marketed that way for funding for future projects. It's not really a de-extinction of a dire wolf. What it is it's even worse. It's a hybrid of a couple different things, but this is a creature that has actually never existed before. It's got pieces of, dire wolves and gray wolves and things, but they actually used artificial intelligence to sequence the DNA, to sequence the genome, however it works. But they actually used, and they said that they wouldn't be able to do it without artificial intelligence. And it was funny because last time I was on your show and I said that, I got a message from a very well-meaning, very, very, nice and respectful viewer, but he was telling me this really isn't how artificial intelligence works. And, he gave me several reasons why, and I considered it, and I thought, okay, well, we'll wait and see. And then come to find out, this is exactly what they are using it for. And apparently that it's so complex that without AI, they probably wouldn't have been able to do it at all. So I had no idea back then, just a month ago when I said it on your show, that they actually have already been doing this. And we just found out about the direwolf thing today. Or not today, but I mean, like a week ago or whatever. We just found out about it now, but it's been going on for months, which makes me think of what else they might have that they haven't told us. I think they're testing the stage right now to see what the public reaction to this is going to be. And so far, except for people like me and you and your audience and my audience, and except for us, our little fringe Christian corner of the bowl, most of the world is positive towards this. Like, oh, the puppies, they look so, yay, we brought back something. It's amazing. But nothing got brought back. This is a hybrid, and this is the kind of stuff that fallen angels and Nephilim were doing.
Right.
Even the Nephilim were, there's extra biblical texts that talk about, like Enoch and Jubilees and things like that talk about how they sinned against the birds and the fish and the animals. So it wasn't just that fallen angels mated with humans. That was the big one. But the Nephilim were doing this too. They were creating new things with animals that existed and stuff. And here we are, I believe, demonically inspired,
Yes.
Inspiring people, because what are demons but disembodied Nephilim? Demons are inspiring people to do this yet again. There's this big drive to quote unquote bring back these extinct animals, but really every time they do it, it's a hybrid. It's never going to be the exact animal that went extinct. It's going to be some hybrid of that and something else. So yeah, it's a crazy story, and it blew my mind. Like, right, it's like right when the news broke, I had to email you, and I was like, "LA, we were just talking about."
I know.
And they're actually using AI to create these new species. And I had some people telling me I was crazy for that. Well, that's exactly what's happening. So I appreciate you having a show and letting people like me come on and talk about this stuff, because we're here. It's the days of Noah, right?
Well, and that segues. That was my next question. I mean, Jesus warns us out of every passage in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, that he could point to. He goes, hey, guess what? When I return, it's going to be like the days of Noah. So let's just walk through that, and I want you to weigh in on this. Let's go back 100 years. It's not the days of Noah. We're not looking at that, but now it is. Now it is, and it's unbelievable. Your thoughts?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And because what marks the days of Noah more than anything else? A lot of people will say, well, the flood. Yes, but what caused the flood? What was the reason for the need of the flood? And it was because everything was corrupted. Everything was different from what God had created it to be. It had been corrupted into new species. And again, it's not just the Nephilim. If we take these other extra biblical texts seriously, like Enoch and others, and I do, I at least take them seriously. Then there were other animals, other creatures, other hybrids around. And something I've wondered too, and I'm actually curious what you think about this. If we were to find a fossil because I fully believe that there were hybrids. It wasn't just the Nephilim, that somehow they were doing it too with the animals. If we found a fossil of some hybrid animal, would we even know that it was a hybrid, or would we just call it something and just assume that it was a natural animal that lived a long time ago? And I wondered about that before, because on one hand, like I don't have enough evidence, and I don't know enough about how you would even test for that. You probably know more than, because I know you do a lot of DNA testing and stuff in your research. So I'm curious to know what you think about this. Because I've heard people say, well, dinosaurs were probably just Nephilim experiments. I don't know. Like, would you be able, like, is there a way to even be able to tell, or would it, if we found the skeleton of a hybrid, would we just assume that that was a natural animal long ago? And is that perhaps why a lot of these animals are extinct, because the flood wiped them out? I'd really like to know what you think. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I mean, it's so enigmatic. When you look at the dinosaurs, I've always believed that the dinosaurs were, in other words, this goes back a long time, and I'm an old earther, and I know I get in trouble the moment I say that with some of you well-meaning folks out there. Please don't email me, but I believe that something very cataclysmic happened with the fall of the dragon, Satan, Lucifer. I believe he was here on earth. He created the dinosaurs, and I know that's, when I say create, he didn't go ex nihilo, but he took genetic material, and this is conjecture, because, God just doesn't destroy something for the heck of it, right?
Right.
So we know that they existed. The creation guys, with all due respect to you, you had this little truncated view of the universe. You fit everything into a 6,000-year-old box, and I get that, and that's okay. But Genesis, the very first verse, something cataclysmic happened to the earth, in my opinion. Read G.H. Pimber, Earth's Earliest Ages. Is it possible? And we don't know, but is it possible that the dragon creates these entities, this whole dinosaur kingdom, and then the Lord goes, that's not what I'm asking for here. And that starts, maybe that's the trigger for the main rebellion. I don't know. I mean, we're not given any information. And what's scary about this, they have found in fossils, it's in our very first Amateur of a Nephilim film, where we sat down with a man who was fired, I think it's UCLA, for declaring that there was soft tissue found in this so-called fossil, whatever. It's like, if it's millions of years old, I'm not buying that. So look, the bottom line is, we don't have all the answers. We don't. I believe that mankind now is very new. 8,000-10,000 years, and that's not that far away from 6,000 years. I mean, so just extend that a few. I mean, and something happened again, after the flood. I think, and I'm kind of hopping around here, but I think the pyramids are pre-flood, and that was destroyed deliberately. That was a whole network. So we get some of the answers, but I certainly don't have them all. I keep all this stuff on the back burner. I'm not an intellectual concrete with it. saying that, well, it's got to be this. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't have all the data. Nobody does. So we wait and see. Moving over to the pyramids, if that data holds, and I interviewed the two scientists last week, was on our YouTube channel here, Biondi and Malanga, and there are two satellites which are in the air, made by two different companies, and they're going crisscrossing and going over Giza in all different directions because every time they fly by, they can take another shot. They did it numerous times. It seems like the data is holding. Pre-flood architecture, in my opinion, absolutely. So, you talk about the dinosaurs and the Nephilim, mixing of the seed chimeras in, Greek mythos. I remember hearing this from Chuck Missler years ago, probably 35 years ago, something like that.
Hey, everyone. Concerning the economically unstable times that we live in, it is a great idea to convert some of your savings into real money. Now, there is a big difference between real money and what we call money, which is actually currency. So our dollar is currency, which fluctuates. Real money, like silver, is a store of value over time. The best way to think of it is like this. If you had saved $1,000 in cash back in the late 60s, the late 1960s, that $1,000 would still be $1,000 today, but it would buy you significantly less today due to inflation. Now, if you saved that same $1,000 in silver back in the 1960s, it would be around $28,000 today. So one of the best ways to protect your purchasing power is in real money, more specifically, silver. Now, you can buy and have the metal shipped discreetly to your door, and what most people don't know is that you can actually convert your IRA or even your 401k into physical silver rather than having all your life savings tied up in the paper fiat system, which is, of course, subject to hyperinflation. So go to dailyrenegade.com right now and click on the Cornerstone Asset Metals banner and sign up to get your free silver report. One of the financial experts will speak with you and find out the best way to protect your savings going forward in these uncertain times. You can also click on the link in the description below that goes directly to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Make sure you tell them that Josh Peck at Daily Renegade sent you. It is time to stop trusting the evil beast financial system of the world and protect your assets today.
Where Chuck was stating that, the whole idea of minotaurs and centaurs that's Nephilim, that's fallen angels messing with the genome. So we know we're in the days of Noah. To circle back, this is the days of Noah. And the fact that moving back on target with the dire wolves, you're right. It's not a dire wolf. It's a different species. It's something that we've never seen before. So human beings are playing with the genome, days of Noah. He's got to come back. And then you get AI. So now you can't tell what's real or what's fabricated anymore. He's got to be coming back soon. It just makes me wonder with the whole mark of the beast idea that, how are they going to sell that? When you take the mark, do you live for 300 years or disease-free? Do you change? You become a modern-day Nephilim? Do you get superpowers? Your thoughts? Because it's all the immense.
Yeah, I think it's a modern Nephilim thing. I think that likely the Antichrist himself is going to be the literal son of Satan.
I agree.
I think that's why he's bound in the bottomless pit. No, the punishment is for angels that commit to sin and procreating with humans. And we learned that from Enoch, but it's also alluded to in Jude and 2 Peter and places like that. Correct. But the punishment for that is being bound in the bottomless pit. Well, Satan is bound at the end of the tribulation. So I think that the Antichrist is a literal son of Satan, meaning that to a certain extent, angels have like an immortality. They don't die in the way that we do. I mean, they will at the judgment because God's going to, but that's the fallen angels. But there's some like angelic genetic attribute of immortality that they have that we don't. So I think that to a certain extent does get, it's going to be diluted, but it gets passed down to the Nephilim in the ancient past. But when the Antichrist comes on the scene, and now there's all these tools that they have available, like artificial intelligence that can scan the genome in seconds, where it would take us, untold amount of time.
Right.
So I think that they'll actually be able to sequence whatever that immortality gene or whatever you want to call it is that angels have. and obviously it's different than like biological genetics. We know there's celestial flesh and there's terrestrial flesh. So it's something different. I'm just using genetics as a word because we don't have a word for whatever spirits have, whatever angels have. But they do have access to a physical body. So that physical body's got to run on something. So I think during the tribulation, what the mark of the beast is, or at least part of it, what it can do is it's almost like the way that in a perverse way, the way that Jesus shed his blood for us.
Right.
I think Satan's going to do a twisting of that, and it's going to be the blood of the Antichrist, the son of Satan, but it's going to be something in the genome and the DNA, something about the immortality that they can sequence out. Because we read that when the locusts come, that these people they're the only ones that get attacked. The people without the seal of God on their foreheads, and that they can't die. They seek death. That's
What is that? Exactly.
yeah.
What is that?
What could that possibly be?
Right.
Well, if we know that immortality is at least an aspect of the angels. So if that gets sequenced somehow into whatever this mark is and changes people who take it into modern day Nephilim, then it all makes perfect sense. It also makes perfect sense why there's absolutely no redemption, because for the angels, there's no redemption. Once an angel falls, it's fallen. That's it. No forgiveness, no plan of redemption, nothing. And also why you have to literally worship the beast in order to receive the mark. You can't be tricked into it. Somebody can't just force it on you. You have to willingly deny Jesus to accept this thing. So you go through the spiritual death, and then you go through this transformation into this modern Nephilim body that probably has all sorts of capabilities that human beings don't. One of them we know of is the inability to die.
Right.
Until Jesus returns, then they're going to be, in a sense, living forever in the lake of fire, which is horrible. So I think all of this stuff, while it's not explicitly laid out in scripture, I think all these pieces make perfect sense when you look at them all together and how all of this stuff could work. So those are kind of my thoughts. But what about you? What do you think?
Well, it's tag team. No,
Yeah.
but it's I remember years ago, I've been a Christian for 45 years, and I'm reading the book of Revelation, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this thing, and I can't. I don't understand what I'm reading, and I'm rereading and reading and rereading and talking to my pastor at the time and going, what about this? What about that? And you get to the point where you read about the mark of the beast, which, you go back 200 years. Well, that's never going to happen, right? It's got to be allegory. Excuse me, it's here. I believe the implants that we took out is a prototype. But the thing that just blew me away, and I never understood it until I read Dr. I.D.E. Thomas's book, The Omega Conspiracy, which shed light on this. Wait a minute. The only time in Scripture where there is no redemption is when the Nephilim are present. It's wipe them all out because they're not human. So here we go, skipping over to the book of Revelation. You take the mark, you wind up in the lake of fire. There's not a shred of grace and mercy there. You can't die, as you just pointed out. So what we're looking at, in my opinion, you take on, this is conjecture, folks, okay? But you take that mark on, you take on the DNA of Satan himself. That's why you no longer are human. You can't die, and that's why there's no grace and mercy. Your DNA changes in similar ways the way our DNA changed way back in the garden. Something happens to Adam and Eve. They know they're naked. They're hiding from the Lord. So, you just don't wake up in the morning, eat an apple. It's not an apple, but whatever you do, and then you're hiding from the Lord. Why would you do that? Why do you know all of a sudden that you're naked? Who told you that? So something happens. I believe it was a instantaneous change somehow to her DNA in a similar way. Days of Noah, here we are, right? Similar way, mixing of the seed. You take the mark, you wind up in the lake of fire. Not a shred of grace and mercy. And the only time that I see that in Scripture, or the Nephilim present, I'm going to throw something at you.
Yeah.
Years ago, there was this guy who emailed me, and he was part of some sort of military liaison where he said, I am stationed here, and they are bringing the bodies of the giants to us, and we process them, and we send them up to Wright Patterson. Well, why not just fly the bodies, directly to Wright Pat to begin with? But it was on the East Coast, and, they allegedly, right? I mean, anybody can write anything. I get it.
Right.
But we were supposed to meet in Dallas and he just went completely cold. Never heard from him again. The point I'm trying to make is we have too many stories. The Kandahar giant, Steve Quayle's giant, and others. I think they're taking the DNA from these things and doing something with them. Your thoughts?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if they have the ability to do it, why wouldn't they do it? I mean, it's not just the dire wolves. I mean, they're making woolly mice, and there's videos of that. It's absolutely deferred. Right? Yeah, it's a hybrid between a mouse and a woolly mammoth. Again, it's not the extinction of the woolly mammoth. And even once they start breeding these with elephants or whatever, once they start using elephant DNA to make woolly mammoths again, it's going to be a hybrid. It's not going to be exactly a woolly mammoth. It's going to be a hybrid. But yeah, mice and woolly mammoths, that absolutely like shouldn't exist. And that does. So it's like, if they have the ability to do it, they're absolutely going to do it. I saw some other report that a scientist said, like, now we now have the technology to actually, and the understanding to be able to clone human beings. And again, and I know people will say, well, we were able to do that in the 90s with Dolly, the sheep.
Right.
It's like, well, there's a difference between a sheep and a human being. But just the fact that they're able to do it, and I'm sure AI had something to do with that, to sequence the genome or to make it understandable, whereas with humans to decode all of that would take a while. But what would stop them from doing it? Like, if they can make a dire wolf, what's going to stop them from doing it? They did it, and the world is applauding it. For the most,
Exactly.
Also, the people that aren't are people that watch shows like yours. If it turned out that they actually did clone a human being, it would not surprise me. So if they would do that with humans, of course, if they found Nephilim genetics somewhere, if they found a body or even a skeleton or anything that they could pull DNA from, or anything, why wouldn't they? What would stop them? Yeah, there's technically laws against human cloning, but this wouldn't be exactly human. So, and they could do it in secret. And it's at the point where you don't even need the government involved or anything. Private companies are doing this. Right. If they wouldn't have come out with that direwolf story, there weren't, as far as I know, there weren't even any rumors about that before. So nothing was leaking. I didn't hear anything anyway. And it was just all of a sudden one day, the direwolf's done. Yeah. So if they did that they probably wouldn't do it with a human unless it was some other country, like come out with big news like that, just because there are laws against it now. But like a Nephilim, a giant, they would frame it different. They wouldn't call it that. They would call it something else. But yeah, I absolutely think that's at least possible. It's one of those things, like, I'll believe it when I see it, but it would not surprise me one bit if that's going on.
No one gets into full-time ministry to make money. At least no one should. Given that, Daily Renegade accepts donations from those who care to help keep us going. Now, because Daily Renegade does not want to be told by the government what we can and can't say, we're not 501c3, so your donations are not tax deductible, but that's not why you're giving anyway, to get something back for yourself. Speaking of which, we here are never going to promise that if you donate, God will reward you with even more financial success. We're not about making promises for God here. But what I can promise is your donations are very much appreciated and help the continuation of everything we do here at Daily Renegade to reach the world with the truth of the Bible. Also, as many of you know, my son Nathan has had some very serious medical issues that we are treating with good, all-natural and holistic remedies. But of course, those are very expensive and are not covered by insurance, so your donations help go towards his health care as well. If you can't afford to donate, you can always donate your time in prayer, which is far more valuable anyway. Let's be serious. So pray for our wisdom, pray for God's guidance for us, and that we never lose focus on what's really important, which is using Daily Renegade as a light of truth that the world so desperately needs right now, especially in these times. As always, thank you so much for your generosity, and I pray God blesses you greatly.
You get into the idea, and late Russ Isdart talked about this, the idea of super soldiers. So, and that's alluded to in the Bourne, that whole film series where he's up for days, right? How does that work? So he's like, something's happened. So, I mean, some of these scientists in deep, dark underground labs, a segue. I remember a number of years ago, probably about 10 years ago, there was an article I read where where a bunch of labs over in England well, we've taken these embryos and we've inserted human DNA with them, and they actually began to grow, but we destroyed them all. And I immediately said, excuse me, I'm not buying that for a minute.
Yeah.
Why even telegraph to the, and of course, nobody bats an eyelash. Nobody says anything. So can you imagine when the restrainer, he who restrains is taken out of the way,
Yeah.
where all hell and hell's kingdom breaks loose? What are your thoughts there?
Oh man, that's and I think that's what we're leading up to. The more and more that we're seeing this stuff, to me, it's like the veil is thinning. Like the restrainer is loosening his grip just a little bit because it's almost time. That's what I really believe is happening.
Amen.
Yeah, and so this is also why I think it's possible there could be a long gap between the rapture and the tribulation, because if the Antichrist is the literal son of Satan, I don't know that I don't think Satan can actually can impregnate a woman right now because of the restrainer, because we've got ancient church father texts that talk about Apollo not even being able to talk around the presence of born again believing Christians. So, and Christians are everywhere, for the most part. So, if the oracles can't even talk, if the Old Testament magic that used to happen all over it isn't occurring now anymore, at least not to that extent. It's really muted, if it's anything at all. It's really restrained. I don't think Satan can impregnate a woman yet, but once that restrainer is lifted, I believe he can. And then it's not the rapture that starts the tribulation. It's the covenant, the signing of the covenant with many.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. So there could be this time for this child to grow up, get into politics, whatever. And maybe when he's 20, 30, 40 years old, who knows? And it's funny because speaking of Dr. Ken Johnson, that lines up perfectly with the Dead Sea Scroll calendar that says the end of our age is 2075, technically 2076, but 2075, that should be when the millennial reign begins. And so a lot of people freak out because they're like, oh, I got to wait that long for Jesus to return? No, I'll be dead. No. Because there could be a long gap between the rapture and the tribulation. There also could be a gap after Jesus returns and the setting up of the Millennium Kingdom. We don't know how long it's going to take for people to have to clean up the earth and build the temple, build the city.
It's an absolute mess when he returns.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think Jesus is just going to snap his fingers and then all of a sudden everything's fixed. I think that
I agree.
People are going to have to build that. It's just like every other temple before that. So yeah, for all those reasons, what it tells me is the restrainer is starting to loosen his grip, I think, a little bit. And some of these things are starting to squeak through. But when we're out of here, when we're gone, and this should light a fire under us like no other. People that are watching, if you've got friends or family that you've been meaning to talk to them about Jesus, and you just been nervous or just didn't know what to say, or you don't want to offend them, hey, would you offend somebody to save them from a burning building? Exactly. Of course you would. We're in that territory now. You got to talk to these people. This is like the biggest straw man argument against the pre-trib. They say, well, you're just waiting to be escaped. It's like, no, I think the other rapture, you could say that about the other rapture views. If I knew it was post-trib, I don't think I would be as motivated to try to go out and get people saved or talk the way that I'm talking now on shows like yours and do these interviews. And the main message that I always try to drive home is get out there and tell people about Jesus. The time is short. The time is short. The time is short. If I knew that I had another 7 years at least and the Antichrist and all this stuff, I don't know that I would be as motivated in that way. Having a belief in a pre-trib rapture should absolutely light a fire under eyes no one else has.
I agree.
And especially when we see these things, we can see the signs of the times, and Jesus expects us to see the signs of the times. We live in such a weird world. It's so much weirder than it's ever been, except for
Unprecedented. Wow.
Exactly. And all of this is going on while we have the restrainer in place. See, in the days of Noah, there wasn't a restrainer. So it was a lot more of the dark occult magic stuff. But now, because there's a restrainer, now it's technology. And I believe just like Enoch says, how the Watchers came down and they taught man, technology and war and all this stuff. It's the same thing happening again, but now it's in a world, now it's in our age of grace, or at least beginning at the end, what I believe, the end of our age of grace. right before the rapture. It's going this technological route where it almost does look like magic. We could just explain it through science, but it's still achieving the same goals. It's making hybrids. It's Satan's plan to make a new life and to destroy humanity completely and to try to foil all God's plans. So 100% I agree with you. We're right on the doorsteps now, and the tribulation, folks out there, you don't want to be around for that. It's going to get a lot worse. Get saved now if you haven't already. Get your friends and family saved now if you haven't talked to them yet, because they don't want to be around here for that.
It's the wrath of God. It's not something that you want to go through. And you say, well, why is God so angry? Well, for starters, 1 billion babies have been slaughtered in their mother's wombs. That's a real number, 1 billion. What does that look like? If you started from the North Pole and went all through Canada, North America, Central America, all through South America to Tierra del Fuego, you wouldn't see one human being. That's 1 billion. You can get your head around that. Because if you say 1 billion, well, what does that look like? Well, that's what it looks like, not one human being. So we need to let that sink in. That is an unprecedented statistic in all of history. I mean, that's never even come close before. And by the way, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack here for this, but Sariel is the fallen angel who taught how to kill the embryo in the womb. That's from the book of Enoch. So let that sink in. That's the first abortion that we know about. And I know that's a hot button issue, but
yeah, well, no, you're absolutely right. And a lot of times when people hear that number, it's like, wow, that's a big number, but they sort of think of it as like a homogenous group. But when you think about it from God's perspective, each individual baby that was killed, that had its own DNA, its own plan. The man was never to be killed, but in the world we have free will. God affords us free will, but God had a plan for each and every one of those babies. And then we go in and just slaughter them. Like, of course, that's going to upset him. I mean, ask any parent that has lost a child or either had a child that's sick.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know what that ater's like. Even if it's at an abstract idea, my kid had cancer. Yours did too. I wasn't angry at God over it, but I was angry about it. Like, I was angry just about it in general. Like, I hate that we have to live in a world that has this stuff.
Right.
But again, that's. So we can understand a very small percentage of the holy, righteous anger of God, and that the abortion thing is just one thing that's angering him. With all these hybrids, I mean, they're destroying his creation again, and he created this for us. And then we're turning, I mean, not you and I personally, but just humanity is turning around and spitting at God in the face over it. It's like, no, we know better. We're going to make our own thing. We're going to make our own animals. We're going to make our own deal. We're going to do whatever we want. And who cares what you have to say, Lord? Of course he's going to be upset about that. So it makes perfect sense to me.
Josh, what are you working on now? And let's wrap it up. But what are you working on now? How do people find your stuff, your books, your films? You're always got your hands in at least a dozen pies. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. My main personal website is dailyrenegade.com, where people can get full videos of everything that I do. I also started a Substack, joshpeck.substack.com, where people can get audio only podcasts of every video I do, plus transcripts, show notes. I also have that at dailyrenegade.com. I just put out a 2-volume book set, and I think I'm going to write a 3rd volume because I already have almost enough material for it, but a 2-volume book set called The Final Cataclysm, which is available at prophecywatchers.com. It's the best place to get it. And I've been thinking about putting together a 3rd one on just the return of Nephilim science, because I've got so much research. It seems like most of the videos that I've been doing lately have to do with that. And then, I take that research, I make a video, I keep the research because those can be chapters in future books. So I might make The Final Cataclysm into an ongoing series of books, and maybe, every few months put one out. Wow. So I'm thinking about that. And then, and then obviously I mentioned Prophecy Watchers. That's the best place to get anything that I produce. It is on Amazon, like if you want the audiobook or something like that. But if you're going to get the paperback, get it from Prophecy Watchers. Why support Jeff Bezos when you can support an amazing prophecy ministry that the world really needs more of, if anything? So, those are all, it's all my info.
Wow. Thanks so much for coming on the record, Josh. We'll see you next month, folks. There you go.
Great.
Please check out Josh's links. And, you got to do your homework. Get some of his resources. Dive into them, because all it's going to do is expand your worldview as to what's really going on in these last days.
All right. I hope that was edifying and interesting and good. Hope that answered some questions you might have had. If not, I got some more information that we're gonna get into in just a second here. But again, I just want to remind people, it's so important to subscribe and to comment, to like all of this stuff. It feeds the algorithm and it tells the algorithm people like this, so spread this out more. And we want this spread out more because in everything that I have, it's all about the Bible and Jesus, the gospel, all this stuff. So help this stuff get spread out to more people. And the more engagement and it's just, this is how I didn't write the algorithm. This is just how it works. The more engagement we have, the better chance it'll show it to people who might not even be Christians. And that's what we want, because we want to get as many people saved as possible. So so it'd be great. And also, just as the church anyway, we should be active participants in this. Don't just be passive and not engage. We should be fellowshipping and talking and commenting and sharing our own views and all that stuff. So I'd love to see that. All right, so let's get into this now. Now again, I don't put everything on YouTube because of censorship issues. So this part here, we're going to do this in the members only. Again, the information that I have coming up here comes from my 2-volume book set, The Final Cataclysm, which you can get at prophecywatchers.com. And again, links to everything are in the description below. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the first half of this episode of the Sharpening Report. If you are a Bible-believing Christian who opposes the kingdom of darkness trying to run the world right now, then you are a renegade to the satanic system. We here at Daily Renegade wear that badge proudly. So, if you're a renegade as well, and you want to see the rest of this video, head on over to dailyrenegade.com right now and get a membership today. Not only will you get the rest of this video, but you'll get our full catalog of Sharpening Report episodes and Daily Renegade update videos on topics such as Bible prophecy, science, technology, the Nephilim, aliens, and so much more. All of our episodes at Daily Renegade are early access, so as a member, you'll get the videos before anyone else does. Daily Renegade also offers videos not available anywhere else due to social media censorship. We also have a community page only for members where we can all fellowship together without fear of censorship. It's basically the best of Facebook and YouTube rolled into one without any of the garbage. Memberships are only $10 a month or $100 a year, and if you can do it, I suggest getting the $100 a year because it's cheaper in the long run, and essentially you get 2 months for free that way. So come join our family of renegades at dailyrenegade.com right now. The link is in the description below, and we'll see you there.